Hello and welcome to One Trinity Place in San Antonio, Texas, as we're here for Game 3 between the University of St. Thomas Celts and the Trinity University Tigers. And you see the Celts starting lineup on your screen. Leading off for the third consecutive day will be Alex Trin playing second, followed by Kyle Bearden, Mason C., Dylan McKee at first, a serious power threat for the Celts, followed by Gabe Garner, Timothy Mansell, Joseph Sanchez, Armando Rocha at short for the third time in 3 games, and then Gerard Smith at third base in the 9-hole. And pitching for the Tigers, it'll be number 40, Jackson Tier. Comes in with an ERA under 1, a 3-1 record. He took the loss last week against Shriner, only giving up 1 earned run in his 4 innings pitched. Coming back from an injury, was held to about 60 pitches in that game against Shriner. Should be full go today.
Yeah, and excited to see it. Good to have him back. It was a scary sight to watch him walk off the mound a couple of weekends ago here in San Antonio. Some clear, obvious discomfort in his throwing arm. Not the type of injury that you want to see. Always a concern there, but of course, back on the mound, you mentioned full participant today.
This is grounded to Tinker. He ranges over and fires to Hastings for out number 1. 1 pitch, 1 out, a good way to start for Jackson Tier.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about Tier, the calling card above all else, is his willingness to throw strikes. And of course, brings into the realm of possibility a lot of soft contact that'll stay in the infield. But also that willingness to throw strikes and the stuff that he has led to quite impressive strikeout numbers on the season.
You saw it on your screen, 47-2 strikeout to walk ratio to start the season. That's just unbelievable. I can't believe I just said that, to be honest.
Yeah, and the bulk of those 47 coming in just 1 start this season. I guess weekend 2 of the year against the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, a top 25 program, perennially very impressive in the region. He struck out 20 batters in that one.
That tied the program record that had been up for quite some time. Swing and a miss. There's his first strikeout of the day. And there's 2 down in the inning.
Yeah, it took 1 pitch in at bat number 1. 3 more pitches here, but a little bit more familiar with that end result. A nice breaking ball in the dirt in the opposite box. Absolutely filthy movement on his secondary stuff, but he pairs it with a fastball with very, very impressive velocity.
So Bearden down on strike 3 as Mason C., the catcher, comes up to bat. C coming into this game hitting .257 on the year. Just high 1-1. Outside, and Tier rarely falls behind.
Yeah, but a couple of squads that have their catchers, arguably their most dangerous hitters, in the 3 spot. C doing what his counterpart, Nick Lazara, does very well for the Trinity offense, and just taking pitches that miss right off the plate. A couple of very competitive offerings from Tier that C was able to lay off of. Tier having to attack just a little bit heavier in this at-bat.
2-2 pitch. Good take by C, and it brings the count full.
And that one finishing not particularly close to the plate, but even then gets C to start his hands.
Fouled off, and we'll do it again at 3-2. Good at bat from Mason C. Tier was on pace to get out of this inning in under 8 pitches. Not the case anymore. Grounded up the middle, and a hit for St. Thomas.
Yeah, and what was already a very good at-bat goes from good to great. Impressive job to start off the first inning from C right there. Sees a lot of pitches, lays off a couple of really close offerings from Jackson Tier, fights a pitch off in a full count situation. Ultimately finds his way aboard, but with 2 outs, Tier in still a good spot.
Grounded, foul, past the glove of Tinker as McKee will go back. Dylan McKee only hitting .212 on the year, but hitting 7 home runs on the season, a big power threat for St. Thomas in this lineup. He works with a runner on first in his catcher C. Down 0-1. Gets the corner, 0-2.
And it doesn't look like McKee was all that happy with that one. Kind of looked back to the home plate umpire, threw his head back just a bit.
Thinks about it, but holds the bat behind the plane, and it makes it 1-2.
That last at bat, there was a pitch similarly up in the zone that wasn't called a strike to Mason C. This time around, McKee not getting the benefit of the doubt.
Swing and a miss. That's strike 3, the second strikeout of Tier's outing in this first inning. We'll head to the bottom of the first on Tiger Network. Tigers up to bat when we come back. Welcome back to the Alamo City. 0-0 between the University of St. Thomas Celts and the Trinity Tigers. You see the Tigers lineup on your screen. Leading off for what feels like several games in a row will be Jack Peterson playing in center field, followed by Caleb Woodward the first year. The catcher Nick Lazara hitting third. And the DH Alex Monson, followed by Harris, Corson Hastings, Jack Baker at short, Max Milligan in left, and then Kai Tinker in the 9-hole. And pitching for the University of St. Thomas will be Austin Ryan, the first year from League City, Texas. Comes in with a 1-1 record. This will be his 9th appearance, only his 2nd start though. And the whip, very impressive, just over 1.05. We saw this yesterday, Luke, somebody adjusting to the starting role, coming usually out of the pen, and went pretty well for Trajan Lee on Trinity's side. We'll see how it goes for Austin Ryan.
Yeah, and Austin Ryan's numbers obviously are incredible. A little bit surprised to see that he's only garnered 1 start on the season. So far, the starters in this series, and Murray and Munson, have been also quite phenomenal for St. Thomas. Unfortunately for the Celts, offense just hasn't provided the run support. But if this starting pitcher and performance has any similarity to the other two we've seen from the Celts this weekend, I'm sure we're in store for a good one. And all the numbers on the year point to exactly that being the case.
Ball outside to Jack Peterson. Peterson, 1 hit on yesterday's total. Went 1 for 5. 2 unusual bunts. Popped out twice on bunts as he swings through that to make it 2-2. But the day before that, hit a 2-run homer to give Trinity a 4-0 lead in the 2nd inning of Game 1. Swing and a miss, strike 3. And there's 1 down in the inning quickly.
And another good start here for St. Thomas Celt on the mound. Austin Ryan doing the difficult job of striking out Jack Peterson. Good start. Exactly how you would want your start to go if you're making only the 2nd of the year. Coming off a performance against Southwestern, a 13-2 loss in a weekend where Southwestern put up a lot of runs, but out of the pen in that one, he was very impressive. And weekend series in the SCAC before that is when he got his only start. And against Texas Lutheran, he went 6 innings, didn't allow any runs, didn't allow any hits before he left that ball game. So certainly has very impressive stuff, and he's showing it early here.
Ahead 0-2 to the first-year Caleb Woodward. Inside and high, and it's 1-2. Woodward came into yesterday's game filling in for Maddox McDonald in right field. McDonald out of today's game with an injury. Grounded up the middle, and a hit for Caleb Woodward. Good start for Trinity, a 1-out knock.
And a good job again by Austin Ryan getting ahead in this at-bat. 0-2 count on the board. Caleb Woodward sees one in. Good job taking a pitch out of the zone. And then here, breaking ball, very competitive offering that hangs up just a little bit too much, catches a little bit too much of the middle of the plate. Caleb Woodward, who's been impressive even in his first campaign in San Antonio, continues to show us exactly why. Very sweet stroke right there.
As they check on him at first, back safely. The catcher, Nick Lazara, into bat. Came into this weekend's action hitting exactly 300. It's been a good weekend for Lazara, recording at least one hit in each of these 2 games. So we'll try to do the same thing with a runner on first. Swing and a miss, strike 1.
Ryan concerned early in this at-bat with Woodward over there at first base, and can't blame him. The first year has shown a willingness to go. I imagine we'll probably get it at some point.
There he goes, swing and a miss from Lazara. Throw to second in time, and they catch Woodward stealing.
Yeah, just a great throw from Mason C. behind the home plate. An absolute dart down there to second. Arguably an even better job in the field. I believe it's the shortstop crashing right here, and you're just going to see him take away pretty much the entire bag. Yesterday we saw a swim move on the base path. I think it was Kai Tinker who got in safely. This time around, Celts doing a better job defensively. Take that away by sitting really right on the base in that circumstance.
And Lazara swings through that and strikes out. So that ends the inning. 2 strikeouts for Austin Ryan as we head to the top of the second on Tiger Network. Still 0-0. Top of the second in San Antonio, Jackson Tier back on the mound as he faces Gabe Garner, hitting 5th today. Celts able to notch a hit in the top of the first, trying to do more than that in this frame as Garner swings through that for strike 1. An impressive batting average for Gabe Garner, hitting .385 on the year, making his 2nd consecutive start. That pitch misses to make it 1-1. Hit in the air to left and gone. Well, actually, wait. It looks like they're going to call this foul. It looked like it snuck past the foul pole on the right side. We'll see it on the replay.
Yeah, it's going to be out there. Two poles side by side. You can see the yellow right next to that big black pole that supports the netting out in left field. I think the ruling was that it must have been off of that black pole.
As he puts it into right, so Garner will reach base regardless, not the way he wanted to, as it turns out, but able to get a single out of it, but so close to even more.
Yeah, and there were some pretty hearty displeasured chants coming from that St. Thomas dugout right there. I heard a pretty loud, "What are you looking at?" directed at the home plate umpire, who ultimately called that ball foul. Would have had St. Thomas out ahead for the first time this weekend in a series where they've really struggled to put runs on the board. Took them till the ninth inning yesterday to scratch their first across 2 games.
Either way, a man aboard with nobody out already. The second hit of the day for the Celts, as that's hit to right. Caught by Woodward, throws back to first in time for the double play.
And I think very quickly, because of that call, St. Thomas was trying to turn things around, feed off it a little bit. Off the single in the previous at-bat, there were some more really hearty cheers from that dugout. I think the excitement maybe proving to be a little bit too much right there, as off the bat, runner at first was on the move very quickly, never paused, never froze on the base paths to see if that was going to hang up long enough to be caught in the outfield. And what looked to be a very promising start to the second inning ultimately looks like it's going to play more in favor to Trinity now.
As the 7-hitter Sanchez ahead 2-0 on tier. Fouled off to make it 2-1. What a huge double play for the Tigers. Think about how quickly that changes things. Nearly a home run for St. Thomas. Gardner ends up on first base. And then the base runner quickly evaporated by Caleb Woodward. Fouled off again. It evens the count at 2 apiece.
I mean, a couple of really nice swings across those first 2 at-bats by Garner and Mansell, even though that one hung up long enough to be caught by Caleb Woodward. It was on a line out there to right field. Lucky it traveled as far as it did. Otherwise, with that trajectory, it likely gets down.
Fouled off again. So he'll see another 2-strike pitch. But St. Thomas already having some early success against Jackson here. There were stretches early in the year where the first hit against him wouldn't come till the 6th inning. Grounded, foul again. So we'll do a 2-2 pitch once again.
Yeah, and it's a pretty significant change yesterday versus today. These St. Thomas hitters at the plate looking a lot better at the moment. Some really good pieces, whether it's been fair or foul, a couple of balls that have just narrowly stayed on the left side of that third baseline.
Grounded to Baker at short. Throw is in time, and that ends the inning. What could have been for St. Thomas so close to a 1-0 lead on the solo home run, but not the case. Still 0-0 as we head to the bottom of the second on Tiger Network. Welcome back to the campus of Trinity University. Alex Monson set to lead things off, hitting 350 plus on the year. Still in a 0-0 game as he takes strike one. In the dirt, 1-1.
And what was very narrowly a 1-0 ball game in the top half of this same inning remains 0-0 for the time being, and Trinity will again have the opportunity to scratch the first run for the third time in this weekend series.
Monson ahead 2-1. Puts that into left. It's finding the gap. Monson heading for two, and he gets there easily. A stand-up lead-off double for the designated hitter.
And maybe it's skewed a little bit, Cole, given the fact that Alex Monson's in and out of the lineup for this Trinity offense in there today because Ryan's a righty on the mound. But despite that fact, it really feels like Alex Monson has found barrels more than any other hitter in this lineup, and it continues right there. More often than not, I feel like he's sending balls to his pull side on the right side, but he's also sent a couple into that left center field gap that just keep rolling and rolling. That one, he gets all the way over to second base.
Hit in the air to right as the second baseman Trin ranges over to make the play for out number one. Yeah, but the emergence of Alex Monson has been quite something in this Trinity lineup, hitting over 350 on the year, as we mentioned earlier. Only the one home run, which we saw him get against the University of Texas, Dallas. He's been a threat towards the middle top of this lineup. Now Corson Hastings up with a runner on second and only one out. Takes ball one.
We talked about it yesterday when the right-handed hitters that are in and out of this order got the opportunity to get the starts for this Trinity squad. Pierce Matthews, one of those names we talked about in one of his at-bats yesterday. Pretty significant difference in experience levels. I think is helping Monson even more so when he's gotten the advantage against the guy on the mound. Senior versus some freshman right-handed hitters being inserted, and the experience continuing to prove very, very successful here.
Hastings takes ball three. Was Ryan in danger of sending another Trinity hitter to the base paths? And there's ball four. So not what you want to see out of your starter, Luke, a 4-pitch walk.
Yeah, especially in the context of what we've seen this half or this full inning. Overall, it's been a really weird weekend of baseball. Some plays that you don't normally see have definitely occurred in this series, and it continued in the top half with that ball off one of two poles. And the eyes of the home plate umpire was not off of that yellow foul ball pole, which keeps us at zeros on the scoreboard. Of course, I mentioned in the last half, it was unfortunate for a St. Thomas team that struggled to score, but when you look at the context of the series as a whole, Trinity hasn't been all that explosive. Offensively, 6 runs in game one, just 3 last night, and they added a couple of insurance ones very, very late. It was a 1-0 ball game most of the way. It feels like any run support for either of these squads will go a long way in getting a victory here on Saturday.
Tigers had plenty of opportunities similar to this one last night. 2 runners on, just unable to bring them in. Jack Baker with that opportunity currently. Takes ball 2. There's some more grumblings from the St. Thomas dugout. They're probably still a little frustrated over the home run call. That was not to be. Hit in the air to shallow right, Trin back, and he makes the catch for out number 2.
And certainly the most overcast day we've had in the past 3 in San Antonio. Wind continuing to blow. Wondered the outset of this one how the skies might impact things that time around. No problem for Trin at second base. Camps out under that one. Very shallow outfield grass, but looked like one way or another the infield fly was in effect.
Now the left fielder, Max Milligan, comes up to the plate. Takes strike one. First time we've seen Max Milligan in this series. It's been Maddox McDonald getting some action in the outfield this weekend. He's out with an injury. Takes that to make it 1-1. Hit to center, and the catch made by Bearden to end the inning. So 0-0 as we head to the third. Tigers leave 2 stranded in this game of SCAC play. Top of the third in San Antonio. Jackson Tier back on the mound. As he picks that, has to throw the first, and a quick first out of the third inning.
Yeah, but another very solid barrel that time. Lucky that that one got him where it did. Looked like it hit right on the base and palm of his glove. Really anywhere else, ball hit that hard is a pretty scary sight. Luckily, it probably got him in the spot with the most protection right there.
So Rocha grounds out on the 1-3, and it brings up the 9-hole hitter Smith. Gerard Smith playing in third base today as he fouls that off to make it 1-1. St. Thomas has registered a hit in each of the 2 innings they've batted, and they'll make it 3 for 3. As this is hit to left, it goes back to the corner. Smith digs in for 2, and he dives in safely. A 1-out double for the Celts.
Yeah, and it's just more good swings from this St. Thomas offense, really for the first time all weekend long. This one finding a way to get down, and ultimately Smith with a very nice read and decision-making off the bat, digging for 2 the entire way. I think if there was any hesitation right there, there's a good chance with the strong throw that Milligan made from out in left field that he could have been gunned down at 2. Instead, another really good result for St. Thomas, and while they've made some mistakes on the base paths already in this one, another chance to capitalize here in the third.
As the leadoff man, Alex Trin, will get to see Tier for the second time. Trin swung at the first pitch in his last at-bat, grounded out to third. Now he works with a runner in scoring position, and he takes strike 1. Grounded to short. And the throw in time for out number 2.
Yeah, an unfortunate break for St. Thomas right there. This ball hit right in front of Smith out at second base. He recognizes that, has to stay put. Puts a second out on the scoreboard here in San Antonio and doesn't do a job of moving the runner any closer.
As Bearden up for the second time today, he takes ball 1. St. Thomas another RBI opportunity. Mentioned to Luke, they've made good contact on tier all day. They've had base runners because of it. 3 hits already. Trying to bring a run in now as that's fouled off to make it 1-1.
And Bearden a little bit more patient in this at bat. Already has seen twice as many pitches as he did in his first appearance of the day. A huge spot for a guy that was a pretty tough out for this Trinity pitching staff yesterday.
Outside 2-1. Mentioned it earlier, the Celts not mustering their first run of the series until late last night. This just looks like a completely different offense that's shown up today. Grounded up the middle. Harris has to throw across his body and not reeled in. Runner coming home, and he will be safe. St. Thomas takes the lead 1-0.
And more than anything here today, I feel like the difference is St. Thomas is continuing to swing the bats, and I think it's with a little bit more frequency, and because of it, you've seen both more barreled baseballs, but on top of that, more pressure applied on this Trinity defense, and that's exactly the case right here. Another chopper up the middle. We saw a couple of them late in the game yesterday. Calcone was the second baseman in that one. Was unable to record a couple of outs on similar struck baseballs. Colt Harris returns over there and I think gives this one the best effort that he can, ultimately glancing just off the glove of Corson Hastings, but no E flashing on the board here in San Antonio. They haven't been rewarded another hit, however. I think a little bit of deliberation probably going on there, but I think with Bearden on the base paths, a good chance to beat that one out one way or another, and he just makes it a really tough play.
As the 3-hole hitter, Mason Sia finds himself in a 1-1 count. 2 outs on the board and a runner on first in Bearden. Swing and a miss. That's strike 2. Grounded to second, and the play made to end the inning, but not before the Celts take a 1-0 lead. We'll head to the bottom of the third. Tigers with a chance to respond on Tiger Network. Tinker hits that to deep center field, and the catch made by Bearden on the run. So we welcome you back to the bottom of the third in San Antonio. Already one out on the board for St. Thomas, who was able to take a 1-0 lead. That play by Colt Harris credited as an error while we were in break. Results in St. Thomas taking their first lead of the series, as now the leadoff hitter Jack Peterson up to bat.
And Tinker was trying to provide some semblance of hope in the early going with a really well-struck baseball to start this half inning off.
Swing and a miss, 1-1.
A great play by Bearden out there in center field. Had a lot of ground to cover, but he did so rather easily for out number 1.
Jack Peterson, 0 for 1 today. He struck out the first time he was up, in danger of doing it again behind 1-2. Inside, and it got him. So Peterson takes the trip to first base, and the Tigers have a runner aboard with 1 down. And it looks like Austin Ryan not too happy with that call.
Yeah, but no major appeals right there from our vantage point, and of course we're a little bit behind these left-handed hitters. We have a better vantage point of their back. Can't see that on the front shoulder, but it didn't look like it got any piece of Jack Peterson, but I'm sure he'll live with that end result considering the context of that count and the end result that you mentioned in his first at-bat of the day. Good to just be on base here.
It's now Caleb Woodward up. They'll check on Peterson again, to no avail. Peterson's got to get back into the groove of stealing bases. Had his streak of over 30 consecutive snapped earlier in Marshall, Texas against ETBU, and then was thrown out again against Schreiner. So not too successful recently for him in that department, usually a very strong area.
I think if you're doing your due diligence as a coaching staff and scouting opposing teams, it's pretty easy to identify his tendency to move on the base paths. A little extra care being applied by these pitching and these arms from the Celts. Just checking over there, trying to keep him honest as close as possible and give their catcher the best chance he has behind home plate to gun him at second.
Woodward behind 0-2. Peterson on first base as Woodward takes ball 1. Trinity finding themselves in an unfamiliar position in this series, losing. They've been inconsistent offensively for these first 2 games, but it hasn't hurt them. The Celts just haven't been able to score that much. All of a sudden finding themselves in a deficit as Woodward battles even at 2-2. And Peterson's getting a workout, having to dive back to first over and over again, but I'm sure he's used to it. Outside, and the count is full.
And of course, you want to be concerned with that runner over there at first when Jack Peterson is as big of a threat as he is to move, but can't forget about the real task at hand. A couple of outs needed to get out of this inning, and now a couple of wasted pitches in this at-bat to Woodward has driven it full.
There's a closer pickoff attempt there, but still Peterson safe. You got to wonder if Jack Peterson is distracting Ryan from the task at hand in Woodward. And the 6th pickoff attempt.
And that one very nearly getting away. But still, just one more ball takes the need to steal a base off the plate.
Peterson goes on the full count, grounded up the middle. It's a base hit. Peterson digs in for 3. Woodward stays at first and puts runners at the corners for the Tigers.
Yeah, really no surprise in that full count scenario to see Jack Peterson on the move right here. For that reason, real competitive pitch from Ryan, but a couple of times today he's gotten ahead in counts against Caleb Woodward, and Woodward has still just managed to string together really good at-bats. First time up to the plate, it saw a breaking ball that just hung up and caught too much of the zone. This time in a spot where he knows he has to get something right around the zone, he does exactly what he needs to with it, just puts it in play because of the movement on the base paths. That big hole opened right up at second base, and it pays dividends for him.
First pitch misses, and C is going to have a chat with his pitcher, as will pitching coach Mike Williams. All of a sudden, runners at the corners. Just want to have a conversation about settling his pitcher down, you would assume. It was Peterson who first reached the way of a hit by pitch, and then Woodward with a base knock that moved him to third, puts runners at the corners with only one down. Still a double play possibility with Lazara up. Now in a 1-0 count. Tigers trying to even this game. Runner goes, and Woodward, throw to second, gets away a little bit. Peterson's going to go home, throw at the plate, not in time. Woodward digging in for three, he slides in safely. So chaos on the base paths ties the game for Trinity.
And first and third situation right here, it looked like St. Thomas communicated things pretty effectively with that meeting on the mound. A perfect read on this one. Second baseman crashing in about halfway. He's there ready to cut this in case Jack Peterson moves. Jack Peterson set over there at third. That ball goes all the way through, just not fielded cleanly, and allows Peterson to come home. And Woodward with really good heads-up base running right there, recognizing that throw back to the plate, also ending up on the ground, and he remains aggressive and gets within 90 feet of scoring.
Lazara ahead 3-0 and draws the 4-pitch walk, so things unraveling a little bit in this inning for St. Thomas. They're going to need to settle it down quickly.
Yeah, need to settle it down quickly, especially with Monson stepping back up to the plate. Already one really good swing in this one, and another would almost certainly give Trinity the lead.
Monson hitting .371, OPS over 1,000 already, 1-for-1 in this game with a double. Take strike one.
And a great spot from Ryan right there, down and in on the knees. Go hard in on the hands of Monson.
Strike two.
Now a really good spot to be in if you're St. Thomas. 0-2 count, forces Monson's hands just a little bit more. He has to protect, can induce soft contact here. And with Lazara, who doesn't run particularly well already on the base paths, a pretty good spot for a double play ball.
Fouled off as Monson will see another 2-strike pitch.
If you're Monson at the plate, you have to do everything you can to protect in this scenario, but for the reason we just talked about, pretty imperative to keep the ball in the air if you can, give Woodward an opportunity to score from third base.
Good take, brings the count to 1-2. Still runners at the corners, only one out. As Colt Harris waits on deck. Hit in the air to left. We'll see if Woodward tags. He will. Play at the plate, throw overthrown, and Woodward in safely. Lazara digging in for third. Throw there, not in time. So good base running from the Tigers throughout this inning gives them the lead 2-1.
And what a cannon of a throw from out in left field. It's a good thought, trying to put everything he can behind this one is Gabe Garner. Unfortunately for him, just not what you want to do in this scenario. Trying to get it there in the air is understandable, but keeping it low, even if it one hops and takes exactly the end result out of the equation, this time it allows Lazara to move all the way over to third base.
So the Tigers responding to the Celts grabbing their first lead of the series, and it's Colt Harris with a further RBI opportunity, hitting just under 300 so far this year. Lazara waiting on third. The sacrifice fly from Alex Monson giving the Tigers the lead. As Harris takes strike one on that inside edge. Luke, it hasn't been consecutive hits over and over again for the Tigers. It's been smart base running for the most part, creating chaos and pressure on the St. Thomas defense. It's given them a 2-1 lead. Harris down 0-2. Fouled off, and we'll do it again. Runner on third, 2 outs on the board. Harrison an 0-2 count. Swing and a miss, strike 3. So Ryan leaves the runner stranded on third, but not before the Tigers take the 2-1 lead as we head to the top of the fourth on Tiger Network. Top of the fourth inning in San Antonio. Tigers taking a 2-1 lead. Last time Jackson Tier left the mound, left in a 1-0 deficit, now working with a 1-run lead. Facing Dylan McKee for the second time today. He's 0 for 1 as he struck out in the first. Now 1-1.
Tier continuing to operate exactly how you would anticipate, throwing a lot of strikes. It's been his calling card all year long, as very nearly gets a swing and miss on that pitch as well, even on the late appeal. Field umpire saying he doesn't go around. In spite of the success that St. Thomas has had, it still led to a relatively low pitch count for Tier, which is what he has relied pretty heavily upon all season long.
Tier still getting quick innings. Now in a 2-2 count to McKee. Thinks about it, but checks his swing, make it 3-2. Inside, ball 4. Only the third walk of the season issued by Jackson Tier.
Yeah, but already here in San Antonio, we've seen St. Thomas threaten by putting together some really solid swings, and we've seen Jackson Tier fall behind a little bit more frequently than I think we're used to. And in the context of everything we've discussed, I believe it's a little understandable. Continuing to work back from injury, I think there's multiple parts. Clearly, physically, you have to get back into the same shape that he was just several weeks ago, but there's a big aspect of it relates to confidence and run support that you get. Last weekend, I mentioned he got tagged with a loss, but he still threw very impressively. It was just an inability from this offense to generate runs. He's gotten a little bit more in the early going here in San Antonio this weekend, but still St. Thomas swinging very well and maybe placing some seeds of doubt in his mind.
Pitch misses to Garner as brings it to a 1-2 count. Grounded foul. So we'll do this 1-2 pitch again. You know, another aspect with Jackson Tier as that pitch misses inside. No, it doesn't. Grabs the corner for strike 3. Gardner frustrated. He heads back to the dugout without number 1.
And the first time up to the plate, Garner thought he was robbed of a home run. This time, ball not struck nearly as far, but still unhappy with the ruling coming from the home plate umpire. In the last at-bat, a pitch that missed the full count sent McKee down to first base. I think Garner would argue that one's in a similar spot. And 2 breaking balls that look like front door offerings winding up right on the hands. One misses and one doesn't. I think the frustrations with the inconsistency of this zone also continuing here in San Antonio for St. Thomas.
The last pitch was fouled off by Mansell. Does the same thing to make it 0-2. But I was saying a big aspect of Jackson Tier's injury was because it's a bicep injury. He was limited in the amount of sliders he could throw in his last inning, and he told me he views that pitch as a safe pitch. He knows that even if somebody hits it, it's going to be pretty weak contact. So that pitch misses high to make it 1-2. But taking that out of his game is huge. I think you saw it last week.
Yeah, I mean, when you take away any pitch, it makes someone a little bit more one-dimensional, and when you specifically take away a breaking ball, I think that's literally what you're doing to a pitcher. You're making them a little flatter, right? With that break and movement that he has on his slider, and that leaves the repertoire, then you're relying more heavily on that fastball, which of course isn't moving. And at really any level, when that's a scenario, guys have an opportunity to step up to the plate and be confident that they're going to see a pitch that doesn't move. Can be a little bit more willing to tee off on starting pitchers with a little more consistency and a little more aggression.
But the slider back today as Tier finds himself in a 2-2 count. Grounded to first. Could have been 2, but Hastings decides to take the easy one. Put 2 outs on the board.
Yeah, and we've seen some trouble with that defensively for this Trinity squad already this year. I think Hastings recognizing that there's a chance to get at least out number 2 in this inning, opts to play it a little safer, goes straight to the bag and doesn't bother with the throw. Would have needed a tag as well at second base in that scenario.
As pitching coach Dave Smith will come out to the mound. Quick visit with his Sunday starter. You know, for people watching thinking, why the heck is this guy throwing on Sunday? He's your best pitcher. Got to talk to Coach Smith about that. He says, hey, what better way to wake up on a Sunday than think, oh, hey, Tier's throwing. He talks about the value of Game 3 of a series, an opportunity to either get a sweep, win the series, or salvage one game, avoid being swept. Viewing Sunday not as a throwaway game, but as a critical game in the series. That's why they have arguably their best arm up for it.
And it'll be interesting to see how that continues over the course of the year. And clearly it comes into play and works very well in a potential super regional.
As that ball gets away, runner heads to third easily.
But in the other stages of this college baseball postseason, regional affair, and of course the College World Series, different formats there that don't mimic these weekend stands. And you have to wonder, Trinity can get to that point, at least the first stage of things in a regional. How does this pitching staff get shifted around?
It's fouled off to make it 1-2. By the DH Sanchez, 0 for 1 today, grounded out to short the last time he was up. The tying run in this fourth inning at third base for St. Thomas. There's strike three, outside edge, Tier gets out of it. St. Thomas leaves the runner stranded. Tigers still lead 2-1 as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Bottom of the fourth inning in San Antonio, Texas. Corson Hastings leads things off for the Tigers. Hastings walked the last time he was up, only took 4 pitches, and that won't be the case this time as he takes strike 1. Tigers able to notch 2 runs in their last frame of hitting. As we'll see how Austin Ryan settles in, working in his 4th inning of only his 2nd start of the year. He's been pretty good so far today, though.
We'll have to see if the trend continues for these St. Thomas pitchers. It's largely been individual innings that have hurt them. Started on Thursday evening, game 1, Landon Murray threw. Trinity scored 4 in the bottom of the 2nd in that one. That game scored in just 1 other inning, I believe. Yesterday, the same exact circumstances. Scored 1 earlier on in the ball game and added some insurance late. Only 1 half inning that they've scored in so far. Certainly would like to be a little more consistent and score pretty evenly over the course of this ball game, but the Celts have done a good job of limiting that.
Hastings puts that to left, and the catch made by arranging Gabe Gardner for out number 1.
And a couple of balls that have been well struck into the outfield by these Trinity hitters. First time up, it was Kai Tinker who sent one into right center field. Bearden just had to keep tracking towards it. Same thing out and left this time. Garner just continuing to move. Both of the outfielders for the Celts doing a nice job of tracking baseball while actively on the move.
Now Jack Baker comes up for the 2nd time today. He's 0 for 1. Flew out to 2nd in his first at-bat. Foul tip into the catcher's mitt. makes it 1-1. St. Thomas losing yesterday, now I believe 8-16 on the year, but their schedule has been very, very good. They rank 46th in the country in strength of schedule among Division III baseball programs. The Tigers rank 20th, so both of these teams have faced a lot of healthy competition.
It's felt over the last couple of years like St. Thomas wants to cement themselves as a member of the SCAC postseason tournament year in and year out. And that's one way of doing it, is just facing a lot of really good teams over the course of your full season.
Lined and caught at third by Smith. A hot shot from Baker handled, and there's 2 down in the inning.
A lot of well-struck baseballs here in San Antonio today that have ended with an out on the board. Both of them here in this innings. First off the bat of Corson Hastings, this time off the bat of Jack Baker.
Now Max Milligan steps up to the plate. 0 for 1. He flew out to center field. St. Thomas has played some good teams. I mean, if you look at some of the non-conference opponents that they have coming up, they have a single game against UMHB in Belton and UT Dallas out in Richardson on April 16th. So that's some of the teams they have coming up. They've also played a lot of good teams earlier already in the year.
Yeah, and that's really the beauty of being able to schedule like this. If you can get to a point where you're pretty readily or cemented in that postseason tournament in the conference, get to that point, everything else matters a little bit less. Everyone, I'm not going to say has an even chance. Some teams certainly built different than others, but you put yourself in a position to earn an automatic qualifying bid, and I think that's when the dividends of playing a tough schedule, whether or not you have the wins to point to at the end of the year, really matters the most for squads.
Milligan works the walk. He's at first base with 2 outs on the board, as the 9-hole hitter Kai Tinker will try and get something going. Tinker 0 for 1, flew out to center fielder as they check on Milligan at first. Tinker from Simi Valley, California. One of a few players from California on this roster. Cal Coney, who we saw yesterday. Luke Pfeiffer, who hasn't pitched this weekend but has started games for the Tigers throughout the year. And then Caleb Woodward starting in right field today. Pitch high, makes it 1-1. Check on Milligan again, dives back safely. The bottom of the 4th. 2-1, Trinity has the lead. Hit sky high to left. Gardner's under it, just shy of the warning track. He makes the catch. That ends the inning. We head to the top of the 5th in San Antonio. You're watching Tiger Network. Make sure to stick around. Top of the fifth on the campus of Trinity University. As the shortstop Rocha leads things off and takes strike one in that upper corner. Rocha 0 for 1 today, hitting .222 on the season. Grounded out to Tier the last time he was up, and he takes strike two. But Luke, only one run on the board for St. Thomas so far today. Only one other run throughout this series as that pitch is bounced to make it 1-2. And it's been a trend that's been a little concerning all season. In batting average, they are only hitting .236 as a team. That's 361st of 383 clubs. That pitch misses to make it 2-2. The slugging ranked 326th, on base percentage 366, so they just don't produce a lot offensively, but some encouraging signs today. They've hit the ball well. As that's grounded, Lazera has to make the good throw and does for out number one. What a play by Nick Lazera.
Yeah, that ball kind of just dies as it's trailing up this line. Usually it would have given Lazera the opportunity to just kind of continue to work through it. Instead, it puts him in an awkward spot where that ball is still really right at his feet. Has to pick up and make this kind of awkward half fallen over throw, but a nice job of getting the job done and ultimately recording out number one. I think you're absolutely right, Cole. The big thing that stands out to me is in the context of the way this team has pitched this weekend. The arms have been really, really good, and the starters have given St. Thomas some opportunities to win. I think that's pretty consistent. You see it over the course of their entire season when you look at a lot of those other results. But absolutely right that today it has looked a lot better, and I think one, really good swings put together, but in the context as well of facing Jackson Tier, I think you put even more weight, even though it hasn't had the results at all times that you would love to see. Some batted balls, another one right here, hard contact, unfortunately just straight at Jack Baker at shortstop, but they're coming against a premier arm in this division, and I think that has to be confidence instilling.
Baker makes the play for out number two. Tier's ERA, don't have a live update on it, but .71 coming into the game. You would imagine it can't be that much higher after the run he surrendered in the top of the third. As now the leadoff man, Alex Trin, up for St. Thomas. Grounds that to short. Baker makes the long throw in time. A quick 1-2-3 inning for Jackson Tier. Sends us to the halfway point of this game. Bottom of the fifth when we come back. Bottom of the fifth inning in San Antonio. The leadoff man, Jack Peterson, comes into this at bat 0 for 1. Was last hit by a pitch, hitting just under 300 on the season. As the Tigers look to add on to their 1-run advantage, getting out-hit in this game 4-3. Check swing foul, and it's 0-1. But we talked about it a little yesterday, the inconsistency of this offense at times. Coach Scannell wanting to see his guys find more ways to get on base, find more ways to produce runs. Scannell telling me it's just hard to get 3 consecutive hits in a game. You need to find other ways to reach, other ways to move runners. And they did it in the frame that they scored those 2 runs, just haven't seen it since. That's roped into right, into the corner. Peterson digging in for second, the throw not in time. A leadoff double for the leadoff man.
Yeah, roped is the right word on this one, Cole, but kind of just weird off the bat. Felt like it had a really good chance to get out. The wind not blowing in San Antonio, but not necessarily aiding that ball at the same time. Felt like with these overcast conditions, kind of died just a little bit as it was flying out towards that wall in right field, and ultimately he hit it about halfway up that wall.
It was a very hard hit baseball by Jack Peterson, as it puts him at second base for Caleb Woodward. An opportunity from the first year from San Pedro, California. Already 2 for 2 with 2 base hits as he takes strike 1. You know, it's interesting, Luke. Woodward, being from San Pedro, actually pronounces it San Pedro, which I had never heard before, but apparently as a local of that town, that's how they pronounce it. As he skies this to left, Garner there, and he makes the play for out number 1.
And I have to assume that your assumption is a little skewed or influenced, of course, by being in San Antonio, right? San Pedro versus San Pedro. I feel like being here, San Pedro, the normal pronunciation, at least that I would have assumed looking at that same spelling.
Mm-hmm.
But alas,
San
doesn't
Pedro.
hold over.
Yeah, I would never have guessed. You just think of vote for Pedro. As Lazera takes strike 1 down the chute. Still working with Jack Peterson over on second base. Pitch outside to make it 1-1. I was at a practice. It had to be about a month ago. I just heard him say that, and I was like, wait, come again? I said, yeah, San Pedro. Hit hard, but slicing foul on top of the batting cages. Make it 1-2. Lazera trying to add an insurance run for the Tigers. Takes ball 2 to even the count.
A good eye leaving that one up. Seems like Ryan just trying to change the eye level right there. Of course, both of these catchers have been very good displaying their discipline at the plate.
Hit to right, it drops fair. Peterson in to score, Lazera into second base. An RBI double for the catcher makes it 3-1 for the home team.
And exactly what we're used to seeing from Nick Lazara at the plate. Swinging the baseball bat. Line drives are what he loves to feast on. Another one he just deposits down that right field line. Looked like it skipped up against the wall of the bullpen and died just enough. Not a guy that runs particularly well on the base paths, but he takes advantage of it right there and advances the extra 90 feet to put himself in running position, scoring position, I should say, and hopefully continue this offensive output for Trinity.
So now this will be the head coach, Torrey Peterson, out to talk to his pitcher. Apparently that was a mix-up from yesterday. I incorrectly identified Mike Williams, the pitching coach, as Torrey Peterson. They look similar from up here, but today I figured this out before the game. Mike Williams is wearing black and Torrey Peterson is wearing red. So unless pitching coach Mike Williams changed, I feel pretty good about this. As the arrival of head coach Peterson will signal a pitching change for St. Thomas. That'll be the day for Austin Ryan. He leaves this game responsible for the runner at second, with his team in a 3-1 deficit. Pitching change from San Antonio, as we'll be back on Tiger Network. New pitcher in for the Celts, it's Gilberto Arazola, as he'll face Monson, the DH, for Trinity. See Alex Monson's numbers, 1 for 1 today, hitting .371 on the year. Gilberto Arazola, his 10th appearance of the season, already pitched once this weekend on Thursday in Game 1 as he fires strike 1 to Monson. Comes in with a runner on second and 1 out on the board in the bottom of the 5th. Monson takes that inside to make it 1-1.
Yeah, it looked like he really shortened up on that delivery, missing that one a little low arm side.
Outside edge, 1-2.
Really good spot right there. Coming back, went soft in, hard away.
You see Arizola's numbers on your screen. That ERA lowered from what it was coming into the weekend, now at 2.57. But he hits Monson with that one and sends him to first base.
And certainly a dangerous bat, and Alex Monson up at the dish right there. It was a good opportunity ahead 1-2 in that count to get a second out on the board, especially against a guy that you have a little bit of an advantage of, lefty on the mound, lefty at the plate. Instead, the task gets a little bit more difficult here as the righty and Colt Harris steps up.
Colt Harris 0 for 2 today, hitting .275 on the year. Those 4 home runs make him a dangerous threat in this lineup as he waves at that for strike 1.
And a couple of times he's just waved through some fastballs up in the zone. Timing seems to be off just a touch for Colt Harris right now, but he can figure it out. He's certainly capable of running into something up.
Grounded to third, could be 2, and it is. An unusual double play executed by the third baseman Smith ends the inning. The Tigers leave two stranded as we head to the top of the sixth in San Antonio. Top of the sixth in South Texas. 3-1 Trinity has the lead over St. Thomas. As we continue SCAC play in this weekend, third game of a 3-game series here in San Antonio. An unusual Saturday game 3, Easter Sunday being tomorrow. Wish you, everyone who celebrates, a happy Easter. We started this series on Thursday, and now we're wrapping it up. So the first pitch from tier of the inning is outside for ball one.
Of course, this series is getting underway on Thursday, but most action in the SCAC starting yesterday. A lot more double headers in the other matchups around the conference, but everything concluding on this Saturday. Texas Lutheran getting a 15-0 victory over Austin College. Maybe an offense that is finally starting to hit its stride, gets going just a little bit today on the road, but elsewhere, another very competitive series continues to be the case between the University of Dallas and Southwestern, who split their doubleheader yesterday and are currently tied 4-4 in the bottom of the seventh.
Apparently in that Dallas Southwestern game yesterday, the Dallas pitcher had no hit innings through 7. They were up 5-0 and eventually lose that game 6-5. So not quite the outcome that Dallas had in mind, with potential no-hitter and then all of a sudden falling when you already have 5 runs on the board. As Tier locates that for strike 3, Bearden not happy as he goes back to the dugout without number 1.
Yeah, and turned to the home plate umpire and immediately had some pretty choice words. And there was nothing more than that, luckily, but the home plate umpire stalking behind him, watching him make his way back to the dugout.
That's the 5th strikeout of the day for Jackson Tier, 3 of them looking. As that's popped up, but not playable. So it's 0-1. The catcher, Mason C. 1 for 2 today, singled in the first inning. Grounded out to second the last time he was up. Strike called, 0-2.
Really, since that third inning where St. Thomas notched their only run of this ball game, it's felt like Jackson Tier settled in quite nicely.
Grounded foul. It remains 0-2.
In spite of that, do have to wonder how much longer he'll go in this one. Talked about it already, making his way back from injury. Missed a start a couple of weekends ago. Got one last weekend on the road in Kerrville, but still just ramping back up. Through 4 innings there, already through 5 1/3 here in San Antonio today. nearing that 80 pitch mark or so, and imagine it, he won't go that much longer.
Swing and a miss, that's strike 3, the 6th strikeout of the day for Jackson Tier, and there's 2 down in the inning.
Getting stronger and stronger as he goes, despite that pitch count ticking up and his returns to the mound. Back-to-back strikeouts, exactly what you want to see from him. Right there, just blowing the fastball by the hitter. Does it again right here, swing and miss right through it.
As now Tier faces the first baseman, McKee. 0 for 1, walked the last time he was up. Pitch just misses, and it's 1-1. Still only the 1 walk issued by Jackson Tier. Only the 3rd one of the entire season now in his 5th start. As that's hit to left, but the catch is made by Max Milligan to end the inning. Strong contact from McKee, but to no avail. As we head to the bottom of the 6th in San Antonio, still 3-1, the Tigers lead in this game of SCAC play on Tiger Network. A new arm in the game for St. Thomas. It's Nick Alume from Lira, Uganda. Sophomore right-handed pitcher comes in with a whip of below 1 and an ERA of 1.23. He has been very impressive statistically for St. Thomas. Comes into a 2-run game and fires strike 1 to Corson Hastings.
And a big 6'3" right-hander on the mound. Getting some materials together before this game and up in the press box with some of the sports information staff. Garrett Landon, former pitcher at Shriner University, was hanging over that visiting bullpen, watching Alume warm up. Very impressed by his mechanics. So, of course, former pitcher has commentary like that. Excited to see him on the mound right here.
Swing and a miss, strike 3, as Hastings represents the first out of this inning. But Alume not the only player on the St. Thomas roster from Uganda. Alume went to the AVRS Secondary School in Uganda, where he played baseball with a few of his current teammates. As now Jack Baker comes up to bat. Total 3 players on this team from Uganda. Baker 0 for 2, lined out the last time he was up, fouls that off to make it 1-1. Hit in the air to shallow center, or shallow right, I should say. Trin goes back and makes the catch in the outfield grass. And there's 2 down in the bottom of the 6th. Alume teammates with Joel Mukasa and Isaac Adongo, all of which went to the same secondary school in Uganda, now all here together at the University of St. Thomas. All 3 of them part of this pitching staff. Strike called to Milligan.
And of course, with this alternating home and away series format in SCAC play, it's been 2 seasons since St. Thomas was here in San Antonio. Remember, broadcast a couple of seasons ago, Isaac Adongo being the only member of this trio on the roster at that point in time. Former colleague Brian Yanselson consistently on the call back then, did a lot of research, very, very interested in the story of these players.
That's grounded to short as Milligan grounds out to end the inning, but we can stick around to continue to talk about this. It's so interesting that you have 3 players, all from that went to the same school in a completely different country than this one.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in a lot of the other sports, or at least I have at this Division III level, but not very frequent in baseball specifically. Of course, I talked about the different locations that are represented on this Trinity roster, a couple of players hailing from California and across the United States, but nothing outside of the country here in San Antonio.
Of course, we had a football game a few years ago in the University of the South. Sewanee was here in the final weekend of the regular season 2 years ago. They had a wide receiver from Mexico City, I believe, so some international players throughout Division III. But Uganda is one that I have personally never seen before, and one I certainly didn't expect doing the preparation for this game. As Jackson Tier back on the mound for his 7th inning of work. Big question coming into this game with the pitch count. How far could he go recovering from his injury? The answer is pretty much normal.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see him continue out there, but arms warming in the Trinity bullpen at the moment. Imagine that they'll all be ready to go in case he runs into any issues here. That one turned on yet again. Garner stepping back into the batter's box. He's had a couple of unfortunate outcomes at the plate today and stalked out of the batter's box his last time up with some very obvious frustrations, trying to right some wrongs, but unable to do so there.
Garner flies out to center as that's the first out of the inning. And up now, Timothy Mansell, right fielder for St. Thomas. You know, Luke, we don't think about how young of a program St. Thomas actually is, their first season in the SCAC, or as a baseball program in general. was the COVID year, 2020. Most of the games were canceled. But there are 3 players on the St. Thomas team who were there at the beginning, original Celts, Timothy Mansell being one of them. The other 2, Jackson Rogers, who we haven't seen yet in this series, and then Kyle Bearden, who was hit second in all 3 games. But it's so interesting to think about. There are 3 players that saw the beginning of this program.
And it is a very interesting program in all of the sports across the board, traveling to Houston, play at just various locations, St. Thomas being located downtown Houston, Texas. Landlocked, don't have a soccer field on their campus. Same thing with baseball, play at a couple of different spots. But you're right, it's been an interesting several seasons for St. Thomas athletically across the board, moving from NAIA designation, joining the SCAC, and it's been a transition period where they didn't have a couple of years of postseason eligibility, and I think past 2 seasons they've finally reached that. So a little bit more to play for, and I'm certain it would mean a lot to those guys that have been here from the start of things for the Celts.
You know, I think about the hockey team I root for, the Vegas Golden Knights, and how young they are. They still have 5 players from that original roster, and you think about that team winning the title and how much it meant to the players that were there from the beginning, and I would imagine it's a similar feeling if this version of the Celts were to have success.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was wonderful for you to watch. Your Golden Knights win a Stanley Cup. Luckily, things have changed just a little bit for each of our fandoms. Our fortunes looking a little different this season at the moment.
Mansell gets a base hit, his first of the day. I don't know, Luke. You got to watch out. You take your shot at the king, you best not miss, is what they say.
Hey, I'll be happy with whatever the Golden Knights do, so long as you beat the Avs and so long as you beat the Jets.
Okay.
We can be friends for the end of the regular season, and then we'll see where we're at by the time the playoffs roll around.
As Mansell works his way onto first base. It's fouled off by designated hitter Sanchez. But everything that St. Thomas wants still in front of him. It looks like that 4th spot in the SCAC tournament up for grabs at this point. It looks like Dallas and Southwestern doing battle this weekend are the favorites to grab the 2 that aren't going to be taken up by Trinity, and then that 4th one seems very up in the air as that's fouled back in the screen. If St. Thomas can't come back and win today, which is still, this game is still up for grabs, they would be 3-6 in conference play with plenty of time to go.
Yeah, and I think especially important that they got out and played Texas Lutheran in the early portion of the year, a Bulldogs team that I'm sure everyone following this conference would have assumed was a lock to reach that postseason tournament. Of course, St. Thomas got that sweep to open up conference play, and it seems very relevant as Texas Lutheran found some footing today in a 15-run performance.
Swing and a miss from Sanchez. That's strike 3, the 8th strikeout of the game for Jackson Tier. But that sweep, you're wondering how good Texas Lutheran was. I mean, you came away impressed with St. Thomas, obviously, but maybe some holes in Texas Lutheran, and all of a sudden they beat Austin College 15-0, and the thought is, okay, maybe they are the same team.
And, of course, you'll have to wait and see how the performances vary week over week. And they'll have some tough competition ahead of them. Texas Lutheran still yet to play this Trinity squad. You mentioned just a moment ago, this result still up in the air. And for St. Thomas, it feels really important to try and snag victories even in series where you might not get the win against these top teams. They've already lost 2 here in San Antonio, but they can find a way to come back in this one. It's going to be hard to do as one more out off the board.
Woodward ends the inning in right field as we head to the bottom of the 7th. Trinity still up 3-1 over St. Thomas. Bottom of the seventh in a 2-run ball game here at Trinity University. The 9-hole hitter Kai Tinker set to lead things off. He's 0 for 2 today. He's flown out both times he's been up. The Tigers trying to get something going offensively. His first pitch in from a new pitcher. It's Walker Holtzhausen. Comes in with an ERA of 2.19. Another guy who threw on Friday. We've seen him, or threw on Saturday. Nope, I got it wrong again. He threw on Thursday. It was the other day. But we've seen him in this series. This is his second appearance against Trinity. As Tinker hits that hard to right, but foul into the St. Thomas bullpen.
And Tinker late on that one. It just kept fading and fading towards that right field line. Even with the wind, I think trying to keep it in fair territory, it pretty easily got into that visitor's bullpen.
0-2 pitch, inside, and now 1-2. Luke, this shift of the schedule has me all messed up. It feels like Sunday, it's Saturday. We started this series on Thursday. That doesn't usually happen. I have to recalibrate as Tinker takes that pitch looking and strikes out.
Yeah, it's been pretty odd, but it's been odd kind of all season long. I know we've had this 3-game format, and I wasn't following last season as closely to know if that was the case a year ago. When I started on Tiger Network, of course, we were calling within the Bell Center a lot of days where we were in the control room, some pretty long ones where we were in the midst of conference play doing back-to-back games. Typically, double headers are the standards. We've talked about a lot of them across the league elsewhere, but this year, none on the schedule that I'm aware of, and this was definitely a weekend where it was a prime opportunity to follow that format.
I personally am very thankful that we do not have doubleheaders. We had one against Hardin Simmons that I remember from last year. I believe there was one against Centenary. Those are long days. As Peterson works a 2-1 count. Fouls that off to even the count at 2 apiece. Yeah, I much prefer coming out to the ballpark on 3 separate days. Just stay here for about 3 hours, then you get to leave. You get to do what you want for the rest of the day. Much better than having about 7 hours occupied by these games.
And I mean, coming out to the ballpark is another big aspect of it. Now physically able to see the action on top of the Bell Center. Those were days spent in a pretty dark room, 7, almost 8 hours on end.
As 3-2 pitch gets Peterson. That's the second time today that he's been hit, and he will begrudgingly take his base.
And it's a couple of times where the Celt pitching staff has lost Jack Peterson by hit-by-pitch variety after getting ahead in the count. Not a guy that you want to issue a free pass to in the context of those types of situations, especially with his willingness to move on the base paths.
It's now Caleb Woodward up. He's 2 for 3 with 2 singles. We've already seen this duo wreak some havoc as Woodward pulls back the bunt for ball 1. It was Peterson who was running. Woodward singled, and that put runners at the corners, and then some shenanigans defensively for St. Thomas allowed Jack Peterson to score, and then Woodward would eventually follow to take a 2-1 lead for the Tigers. Peterson goes, Woodward swings through it, throw to second. It was in time, but it looked like it was bobbled by Rocha, so Peterson's safe with a stolen base.
And Mason C. behind home plate has delivered some strikes down to second base. This one, I think you're right. It looked like it was there on time. Just some difficulty in actually corralling the baseball, and Peterson looked like he was able to just sneak his toe back onto the bag.
So Woodward now in a 1-1 count. One out on the board. Peterson now at second base. We've seen often with Jack Peterson that he doesn't stop there. He's still in third a few times this year right after stealing second. 2-1 pitch. Misses. And Woodward ahead 3-1.
And with Peterson advancing, it looks like over at third base, sinking back a little bit is Gerard Smith. Of course, Woodward's been gifted the opportunity to really swing the bat here. But ahead of that second strike in this at bat, felt like a pretty solid scenario in which he could lay down a bunt and beat it out.
The count now full. And he loses him. Ball 4. As back-to-back Tigers reach base. I'll bring up Nick Lazara. You know, if I'm Jack Peterson at second base, I'm saying, hey, I worked a full count and I got hit. You couldn't have just thrown that on the other side of the plate and then I could have just taken the base anyways. But that's how it goes sometimes.
I'm sure he's happy ultimately being out on the base paths now, especially with Nick Lazara coming up to the plate, who did some damage last time up. Trinity trying to break the pattern of only scoring in 2 innings in this series. Opportunity to scratch another run in a third frame here today.
Lazara 1 for 2 today. He doubled the last time he was up. Has also walked and struck out. As Holthausen will bluff off the backside. 2 very dangerous runners, this combination of Peterson and Woodward. It's going to wreak a lot of havoc in games. That's grounded to second, could be 2. Bobbled, throw to first in time. So Trin able to recover and get 1, but the runners advance, and we will continue with 2 outs.
And Trin was pretty dead set on going to second base, was starting to move that direction. You can see him out there, I think, pretty quickly displaying the frustration with the inability to field that one cleanly. It looked like he was almost giving up on that play and then realized who was making their way down to first base. Still plenty of time to throw out Nick Lazara. Important that he does get that job done, because now just 1 out from getting out of this inning unscathed.
As we'll have a full infield meeting at the mound. And it looks like that'll be the day for Holthausen. A new arm in for St. Thomas when we come back. 2 runners aboard with 2 down in the bottom of the 7th. New arm in for St. Thomas. It's Dominic Garza comes in with an ERA of 0 through 3 innings pitched, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a whip of 2. As he comes in to an important situation for the Celts, down 2 with 2 runners on for Trinity and 2 outs in the inning, and facing the cleanup hitter Alex Monson. Monson 1 for 1 today. Also has a sacrifice fly and is reached by way of a hit by pitch. Swings through that, and it's 0-1. Tigers trying to add on to this lead, something they really haven't been able to do through the first 2 games. Pitches bounce, it goes to the backstop, and Peterson comes home to score. A wild pitch makes it 4-1 Trinity as Peterson scores and Woodward moves to third.
And certainly a high-pressure situation inherited right here by Garza. And really the last thing that you want to see. Run gifted to this Trinity offense adds a little bit more insurance in the late stages. Got to keep this thing as close as possible given how much of a struggle it's been to score runs.
Grounded to first, he'll take the quick trip to end the inning, but not before the Tigers add another run. It's now 4-1 Trinity as we head to the top of the 8th on Tiger Network. Top of the 8th in San Antonio. Jackson Tears' day is done. A new arm on the mound for the Tigers. It's Jack Breezy. Breezy comes in with an inflated ERA, pretty much due to 1 bad outing against Babson as he fires ball 1. But overall, it's been a good body of work. You see the strikeout to walk ratio 14-2. As that pitch misses, making it 2-0 to the 9-hole hitter Smith.
Yeah, the bulk of the damage coming in that outing against Babson and then in a midweek start against Mary Hardin Baylor. And even then, it felt like he was really good at the beginning of that game, got in a little more trouble second and third time through the order.
Breezy fires strike 1 to Gerard Smith, who's 1 for 2 today. And pitch misses. Ball 4. So a leadoff walk handed up by Jack Breezy. Not the way he wants to start this one.
Yeah, and I think upon receiving that baseball back on the mound, displays a little frustration, worked through that at bat rather quickly. Some adjustments certainly need to be made, but know that he has really good stuff on the mound. He's relied pretty heavily on his breaking ball at times this year, and certainly a get-me-over pitch that he can use if he continues struggling to find the zone as he is right now.
Now the leadoff man, Alex Trin up. He's 0 for 3 today, grounded out to short the last 2 times he's been up. Runner goes, Ball hit to first. Hastings takes the trip for the out, but the runner advances. 1 down in the 8th.
And it seems like they're just trying to execute on the hit and run right here. A runner on the move on that delivery. A right-handed hitter standing in the batter's box. It meant that Colt Harris was covering over there at second base. Hole opens up on the right side, but just a little bit too late on that one. Almost shocking to say, and unfortunately it hugs that line closely enough that Corson Hastings can field cleanly and record an out.
A fist bump from head coach Tim Scannell as he heads back to the dugout. Probably just reassuring Jack Breezy, who we've seen in all sorts of situations, including this one against the University of Texas Dallas a few weeks ago. He came in relief of Jackson Tier, was able to close out the game, working with a 3-run cushion. So that's fouled off by Kyle Bearden, as we mentioned earlier, another one of the original St. Thomas Celts. Was there at the beginning of this program back in 2020, his 5th year with the team. Now works in an 0-1 count. Make it 1-1. Starter for Trinity, Jackson Tier, through 7 innings. Allowed 1 run. Believe it was unearned. As that's fouled back onto the roof of the Bell Center to make it 1-2. St. Thomas once again finding themselves down late in the game. This time trying to rally and salvage a game in this series. Tigers trying to complete their first sweep of SCAC play. Pitch misses up, and it's 2-2.
And Breezy trying to change the eye level right there. Misses well up and outside of the zone. Have to see if it's good enough, however, to set up a breaking ball right here that he can throw off of it.
In for strike 3. He gets Bearden looking, and there's 2 down in the top of the 8th.
Didn't need the breaking ball in that circumstance. Went right back to the fastball, and neither I nor Bearden were expecting it right there. Had him frozen. Absolutely no shot. Had to have been assuming or anticipating some other pitch right there, and the fastball velo a little bit too much. Wasn't going to be able to start the hands late and fight that one off.
Now the catcher, Mason C., waves at that for strike 1. Now 2 down in the top of the 8th. St. Thomas down their last 4 outs, trying to come back from this 3-run deficit. Pitch in the dirt, good job by defensive substitution Matthias Riding to keep that in front of him. Talked to Scannell this week about Riding. He's filled in so well when he's needed to. Of course, Matt McNaney, the current first base coach, injured. He broke part of his hand. As Riding keeps another pitch in the dirt in front of him. But so complimentary of Riding's work behind the plate. Says pitchers loved throwing to him, and it shows that they trust him in this late game situation.
And he's been really exceptional on the defensive side of things. Nick Lazar has had the bulk of the duties, and I would assume he's caught a little bit more frequently than he would if Matt McNaney was healthy and available. But Riding coming in and serving as a very, very solid backup option as well.
Tinker handles the hot shot to third to end the top of the 8th. We head to the bottom of the 8th with the Tigers up to bat next, trying to add on to a 4-run lead on Tiger Network. Welcome back. Bottom of the 8th inning in San Antonio. New arm in for the Celts. It's Cameron Craig. He comes in with a 1-0 record. This is his 10th appearance of the season. He is an impressive 1.69 ERA, exactly who the Celts would want in this situation, trying to hold a deficit. Still face the second baseman, Colt Harris. Takes a pitch up and in. Harris 0 for 3 today. He's struck out, grounded out, and flown out to his counterpart Trin at second. Hit up the middle. And a diving catch made in center by Bearden. Some frustrations offensively for Bearden today. He takes it out on that play defensively.
And what great defense we've had all series long. Yesterday, it was Jack Peterson, Trinity center field counterpart, came in to rob, I believe, Israel Fields, who tried to drop one in to the outfield. This time, Bearden with a truly difficult play, having to come in, Superman dive, face first into that baseball. Really great play. Make that play and catch, concentration, holding.
So good play by Bearden is out number 1. Hastings hits that to deep left field, but it lands in the Tiger bullpen as strike 1.
And a couple of really well-hit balls to that left field corner, one that nearly got out for this St. Thomas squad earlier. This one just a little too far off the end of the bat. Lucky that there was a little too much fade on that one as it got into the bullpen. Otherwise, would have been pretty well short of that wall in left field and playable for Gabe Garner out there.
Hastings now finds himself in a 2-1 count. Inside 3-1. Cloudy day in San Antonio. Temperatures, I would assume, in the mid-70s. Feels that way. Humidity not too bad. Good day for a baseball game as Hastings rips that to left. And the catch made by Gardner for out number 2.
Another baseball ripped off the bat, of course, in Hastings right there. This time with that same fade that we saw just a moment ago. It looked originally like it was going to get down in that gap, and then it just hung up and started to fade back towards Garner. Another impressive catch on the move by this St. Thomas outfield.
So 2 good defensive plays represent the 2 outs of this inning, as it brings up the shortstop, Jack Baker. Baker 0 for 3 today. He's flown out to second twice and lined out to short. Pitch lands for a strike. It's 1-1. Hit in the air to shallow left. Rocha back, and he makes the catch that sends us to the 9th. St. Thomas down to their final 3 outs. We'll see if they can come back from a 3-run deficit when we come back. St. Thomas down to their final 3 outs here in San Antonio, trying to avoid being swept by the defending SCAC champions, the Trinity Tigers, as Breezy fires his first pitch to McKee. That's ball 1. Grounded to Tinker at third. Throw in time, 1 down in the inning. And that leaves McKee 0 for 3 on the day, and it's been a huge problem for St. Thomas. A big reason why they're in this 3-run deficit. Their top 4 hitters, Trin 0 for 4, Bearden 0 for 4. The catcher C 1 for 4, and now McKee 0 for 3.
Yeah, just 5 hits on the scoreboard for St. Thomas here in this one, and it's one of the higher totals that they've had all weekend long. Even then, I think we can debate one of the hits that they were rewarded on the only play that they scored on here in this game 3. It's an offense that's certainly going to have to figure it out because, as we talked about earlier, pitching staff has held up their end of the bargain. They've limited what is a very, very good Trinity offense here this weekend. They just haven't had any supports from these bats.
As Garner goes down looking, a strikeout for Jack Breezy, and the Celts are down to their final out.
Yeah, and so far it's been easy being Breezy. That's a necessity. Got another text from Peyton Tebow today. His all-time favorite line anytime Jack Breezy is on the bump for these Trinity Tigers.
This will be Timothy Mansell trying to extend the game for St. Thomas. Breezy trying to earn a save. Fouled off, makes it 1-1. One of the original Celts trying to make some magic. Shout out to our colleague Reed Rosales for helping me find that nugget. Swing and a miss, strike 2. Breezy trying to shut the door and complete the first sweep for the Tigers in SCAC play. So far the Tigers 4-2. Fouled above our heads, and we'll do it again. Tigers 4-2 coming into this weekend. Now 6-2 after their 2 victories against St. Thomas. Breezy trying to make it 7-2. In the dirt, and it evens the count at 2 apiece. Jackson Tier in line for the win. Breezy trying to give it to him. As Mansell continues to stay alive, a good at-bat worked by the 6-hitter. Just misses. And a full count worked by Timothy Mansell.
And a good job by Mansell here with the game on the line.
In the dirt, ball 4. And a 2-out walk handed out by Jack Breezy. What an at-bat by Mansell.
Yeah, especially coming back, falling behind early on. That last pitch, not all that competitive. Breezy spiking it well ahead of the plate. A couple of really good offerings that Mansell managed to at least fight off or take when they were really close to the zone in that at-bat and give a little bit more life to St. Thomas.
As now Sanchez up to bat. It looked like Riding was trying to throw out Mansell, who got caught stealing, and that will be the ball game.
And the St. Thomas coaching staff coming off the field, all they can do is laugh at that one. Felt like the home plate umpire was maybe ready to get out of here a little bit early. Feels like an inevitable end result, so it stings a little bit less, but a weird play to cap off what has been a weekend full of them. Ultimately, what a tremendous performance by both of these pitching staffs. We've spent a lot of time talking about this St. Thomas staff all weekend, but this Trinity group of arms was spectacular here in San Antonio and really the big reason why they got the job done.
The combination of Jackson Tier and Jack Breezy, enough to get the Tigers the win and the sweep over St. Thomas. The Tigers bring their record up to 17-7. They've won 4 games in a row as they will play University of Concordia here on Tuesday. We hope to see everyone here for that one. For everyone working so hard for Tiger Network, Reed Rosales on the camera, everyone in the control room, our executive producer Josh Michigemba, and for my partner Luke Terry, I'm Cole Isaacson saying so long from San Antonio, and thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.